And this is why when it comes to the midterms, when it comes to these elections coming up, if these politicians, if these candidates are not offering anything outside of complete abolishment of ICE, it's not worth the vote. Because anything that's not just a complete abolishment is you just signing away what they're doing. So earlier in the week, ICE killed yet another innocent man after killing Lorenzo Salgado Araujo, a Mexican man who was on his way to work when he was shot by ICE. So here we have this article from CNN. Mexican man fatally shot by ICE was not the target of Houston immigrant operation, source says. So we're just going to read this article, and the article itself is very iffy on what actually occurred. We see with these videos here a bit more information regarding it, but we'll get into the article first, and then we'll get into these posts that provide a little more extra detail. A man who was fatally shot by an ICE agent in Houston while on his way to work Tuesday was not the target of their immigration operation, according to a source with preliminary details about the incident. The shooting took place around 7 a.m. as Lorenzo Salgado Araujo attempted to evade arrest when agents tried to conduct a traffic stop, ICE said in a previous statement. Describing it as a targeted enforcement operation, the agency did not specify whether he was the target. And when you look at this sentence right here, oh, he was trying to evade arrest. He probably didn't even fucking know who it was, because as you can see in these videos, like let's back up a bit, like when they drive by the black cars that the ICE agents were in, where on these cars, like look, like where on the side of this car does it say ICE? We have like a better angle of it too, right here. That was the car they stopped him in. Where does it specify that this was any sort of law enforcement? How was he supposed to know? So yeah, that's a part of the article that I was talking about, the parts that I kind of find disgusting on how they talked about this. But going back to it, Texas authorities had previously notified ICE about two individuals, neither of whom was Salgado Araujo, traveling in a white van believed to be in the United States without legal status, according to the source, prompting them to surveil the vehicle. The agents then conducted surveillance on a target's address, and weeks prior to the incident, they noticed two white vans at the property, a Homeland Security official told CNN. On July 7th, officers were almost at the target's address when they observed a white van with an individual who resembled the target. Officers then initiated the traffic stop, the official said. Again, in an unmarked vehicle. So for most people, they're just going to see it as this random person trying to come up on them and just be aggressive. Again, like, how are we supposed to fucking live in this world where we just have unchecked law enforcement that refuse to identify themselves properly? And also, they observed a white van with an individual who resembled the target. I wonder if they really weren't looking at the target and were just mostly focused on the skin colors. I don't think they really thought that was their target. I feel like this is a bunch of excuses. The van was registered to Salgado Araujo, who agents determined to be in the country illegally, the source said. The ICE vehicles attempted to block in the van, which struck at least one of the vehicles, the source added. Speaking of which, that is a claim that ICE and Homeland Security has been throwing around, but in this video that takes a look at the sides of the vehicle, like earlier it shows the front, where's the scratches? Where's the dents? If it rammed into the ICE agent, if it rammed into the vehicle, why does it look like there's no damage to the vehicle itself? Kind of weird, huh? If you've ever seen two vehicles hit each other, there's at least a scratch at the very least. Even if, they're not going that fast, there's some visual damage that you can see, right? Kind of weird that you can't really see anything. It's almost as if no ramming was occurring. And once again, maybe, even if that was true, maybe he wouldn't have fucking done it if it was properly labeled, if there was a sign on the vehicle of being like, hey, this is a law enforcement vehicle. No, as we see in these videos, it's just a black car that was trying to box this van in of people who are just trying to go to work. Like no sirens, no alarms, nothing, no lights on top of being like, hey, this is a sign that this is law enforcement. We want you to pull over so we can check something. Nothing. CNN has asked the Department of Homeland Security, which houses ICE, whether immigration enforcement agents identify themselves to Salgado Araujo and awaits response. So no, they didn't. Anytime they refuse to answer a question like this, it's because they didn't. And they know they didn't. And they know they don't really have to answer that because who cares? They have the fucking president backing them. This is what he wants. The 52-year-old father of three encountered ICE agents as he picked up the last members of his crew of construction workers in Houston's East End area before heading north to finish construction on several houses. Salgado Araujo's oldest son recounted Wednesday. Because Salgado Araujo's van and tools had been stolen in the past, he had been cautious about being followed, his son told CNN's Aaron Burnett on Thursday. As of Thursday afternoon, no videos or photos of the traffic stop or the shooting have been released by federal officials. The officers involved in the incident had not yet been issued body-worn cameras, a DHS spokesperson told CNN. And even if they did, I guarantee you they wouldn't be showing them. Because the last time they did with the Renee Good situation, it didn't look good for them because it was very clear that the story that they were telling was not the one that fit what actually happened. Meanwhile, video capturing the shooter's aftermath has been posted on social media, igniting an outpouring of grief and calls for evidence to be reviewed. The DHS Office of the Inspector General is now leading an investigation into the shooting, according to ICE, and the FBI's Houston Field Office is investigating the alleged assault on a federal law enforcement officer. Yeah, I'm sure that's gonna go well. I'm sure they'll find some pretty hard-hitting evidence. It's not surprising. That's the problem. That's the big problem, is like with how ICE has been running around this country, doing whatever the hell they want, not having any sort of actual pushback from people higher up, just being Trump's personal Gestapo. It's not surprising that this keeps happening. And this is why when it comes to the midterms, when it comes to these elections coming up, if these politicians, if these candidates are not offering anything outside of complete abolishment of ICE, it's not worth the vote. Because anything that's not just a complete abolishment is you just signing away what they're doing. That's it. The case is the latest in which someone was severely injured or killed this year after being shot by a federal immigration enforcement agent. It also again raises questions about who is targeted by a nationwide immigration enforcement push the Trump administration says aims to remove dangerous criminals from the U.S. Yeah, this guy was a real dangerous criminal. This father of three who was in the United States for 35 years building homes, who was seeking out legal status, which by the way in of itself is fucking crazy. Spending 35 years in the United States doing nothing but working by building homes for people, and he doesn't count as a citizen. Dude spent 35 years here doing nothing but working more than probably a lot of people who are celebrating his death, and actually providing a backbone for this country. And yet he's seen as just a dangerous criminal. Yeah, that guy who spent so many years here with no criminal record, yeah, he tried to run someone over. Yeah, this guy, this father who did nothing but work for he's a dangerous criminal. Yeah, totally believable. Insane. And also, like, this has been happening. This is nothing new. The only difference is that you're seeing it, because ICE has been killing people not in front of the cameras, but in their detention centers. They've been treating them inhumanely. That is what a lot of these protests are fully about, like the ones outside of Delaney Hall. It is completely gross how this administration and how just the United States has been treating immigrants for a long time now. On Tuesday morning, Ronald Salgado's mom told him his father was in trouble. The son recounted with CNN's Aaron Burnett on Thursday. They didn't know what happened, but they suspected it involved ICE. Salgado Araujo had previously talked with his lawyers about what to do if he was taken by ICE. He would decline to sign anything and call his son or his wife to get him released, his son said at a news conference Wednesday. By the way, the three men that he was with in the vehicle have been detained by ICE, and reports have been coming in that they are trying to force them to sign papers to get them out of the country, so there's not any witnesses to this, in order to remove them so that you can't really get their side of the story as to what happened. It's very much a way to try to silence them and to try to keep the perspective of this story within their hands. So after hearing from his mother, Ronald Salgado immediately drove an hour to his father's work site to find his van. Had he been detained by ICE, he would have wanted the van to be delivered to the work site so that the other workers that were there could finish up the houses and the families could get paid, the son said on Wednesday. After his search came up empty, Ronaldo Salgado came across a Facebook post about ICE activity in the East End area. At about 8:30 a.m., he drove there to find his father's serviceman on a blocked off street, but still no sign of him. I stayed on site for several hours, asking any and all officers and members of the public that were there for answers as to where my father is. Then a video posted on social media stopped him in his tracks. I recognized him immediately, not from his appearance, but from his voice crying for help as he lay on the street, bleeding out. A wounded man lies face down in moans of pain next to a white SUV parked near a barber shop as a federal officer kneels over him while on the phone, video taken after the shooting shows. The right side of his stomach was bleeding, said Juliet Martinez, a Houston resident who recorded the video and shared it with CNN. And that's essentially what we see in this video right here. They shot him and they're holding him down. And they said that they were trying to immediately get him medical help. Yeah, I'm sure holding him down while he was bleeding out was a great way to help him. I just don't know what to say anymore. Again, this shouldn't be surprising with how much ICE is allowed to get away with. And again, this is why I'm saying if there is a political candidate that is running for these upcoming elections in your area, if they are not 100% against ICE, if they're not for abolishing ICE completely, they do not deserve your vote. ICE is not a long-standing establishment. It's not like a long-standing agency. It's something very new, and it has been nothing but terrible to the immigrants in this country who provide a giant backbone to this country's economy, who do more for this country than a good chunk of the people who actually live here. And treating these people like this is so inhumane. It's so gross, when what we should be doing, what this country should be more focused on, is creating a better system to make these people into legal civilians. Even if there is an undocumented immigrant who comes into this country and commits a crime, they should be tried here. That's the thing. Like, so many of these people, they just like send them to other countries. They just boot them out. Literally every facet of how our immigration system works right now is so messed up. It is the complete opposite of what should be done. And the fact that instead of just trying to help these people through the legal process to become legal citizens, our country is throwing them in concentration camps is sickening. But that's really all I have to say about this issue. I mean, what else is there to say? It's obviously gross, fundamentally un-American in so many ways. And if there really is people out there celebrating it, they deserve to be mocked. But yeah, that's all you really got to say on the issue. I'll see you all in the next one.